Hello class, this is Scott Caruso from MUX 1303 here with my week 3 discussion following up on the second round of user experience playtesting for the MyGov application. I guess before we get started and I go into the analysis that I did, we'll take a look at the application real quick just so you can see what's actually changed from week to week. And let me pull it up here. Here's the application. I apologize for covering up my face. If you remember the application from last week, there are some pretty significant differences right here on the main screen. It is still just as simple as it was before, um, in terms of a big button in the middle of the screen, a search bar, and then just a link to the survey. But the aesthetic is completely different than it was. The button in the middle of the screen is actually very clearly a button. It's been arted up to look like a button. It's got a little logo treatment as well. There's a background of an American flag, very subtle. And the search bar is moved to not be just below the button up in the top right in a response to some feedback I got that the search was, people thought the search was what you were supposed to do on the main page rather than just tap that button. So those are the big differences here. If we move through the application a little bit, you'll see I added a little bit more. The background is consistent throughout. I've tried to add branding in various different locations, just using the MyGov name as much as possible, just to keep people with the idea that MyGov is what the application is called. And thankfully, 6 of these 7 people that took the post-test survey knew that the app was called MyGov when they took it, so the branding seemed to have worked. Results screen, not terribly different, but again, background treatment. I've added some arrows here to make it obvious that you can actually click on these to provide more information. I cleaned up some bugs in here. I added, again, MyGov up here in the header. I've changed it, the next pages significantly in that there's more information provided. I'm now branding this as the MyGov profile, and I've removed the transition that exists. There used to be a transition where it would wipe the next politician in. I've made it so it just replaces the politician, which is more the intended design of the of how this is going to work. I think it looks better than a full wipe anyway. And a really minor change I made also, this map button here allows you to, it actually tells you map to go back to the map rather than back. So just make it clear that hitting that button takes you to the map rather than going back. Also, these buttons here are now clickable and interactable. So if you want to tweet President Obama as an example, you can click on the icon or the name there. Either one works. Again, based on feedback I got last time. Okay, so that was the application. Let's take a look at the findings report from this playtest. Again, just to reiterate, we're going to talk about the breakdown of the users, some key metrics, the successes and areas for improvement. I'm also going to add some differences between the two tests, and then a couple other items of note and things that I want to do going forward. To set the scene, once again, how the test went down. Controlled location in my office. I got 7 people, yet again. Different people, obviously, from the last time. Users were screened beforehand. Unfortunately, just because of the time constraints, I didn't really unscreen any users, so essentially anyone who was willing was brought in to participate. Thankfully, everyone was at least somewhat engaged in some of the areas that I'm looking for. But there was no one screened out, even though everyone took the screening. So they took the screening, and then they worked through the 7 test questions that I provided for them to try to complete tasks in the application, and then filled out the survey at the end. Obviously, they were encouraged to talk throughout the entire process. Very simple. At the end, after all of that was done, I did a very brief A/B test with the users. I want to test, let's go back to the main menu here, their reaction to what the hint text here in the search bar, locate their gov by zip code versus locate my gov by zip code, to see what people preferred. I wasn't sure which one would test better, so I actually provided an A/B test there of that functionality, or of 2 different search bars there. Okay, so user breakdown. Again, like I said, 7 total participants. Ages range from 22 to 35, with 5 of them between 22 and 30. 5 male and 2 female. Again, that's the exact same breakdown as the first test. All 7 smartphone users, which was not surprising at all. I was actually surprised the last time that there were only 6 of the 7. Only 2 of the 7 were regular tablet users this time, which was surprising to me. There were 4 in the previous test. So we've actually gone backwards, which is a little concerning to me because I'm designing this right now from a tablet point of view. So I likely need to go back and reconsider how I can actually convert this into a layout that looks good for a smartphone, for an iPhone or Android. The breakdown of political affiliations was also much more broad this time than it was last time. And because it was at the same location, my business last time, the same issue of all being employed in a tech software development role exists, and all but one of the people in the test rated themselves as 6 or higher in terms of their political savvy. So those are the users that we were dealing with this test. The big issue, I guess you could say, was even though we got better political diversity, independents and undeclared folks are not likely to be in the target audience for my application because independents and undecided or undeclared voters typically don't get as passionate about specific issues or politicians as people to the left or the right. So they're unlikely to get as much benefit out of this application, the ability to locate and then tweet or Facebook or send email or call different politicians. They're not likely to get the same benefit out of it as somebody who is far to the left or far to the right. So that was a little bit of a, not necessarily a problem, but something that rears its head in the survey results later. So key metrics, average time for completing all tasks came down. I'll talk a little bit about that in the key differences later on. All the tasks were completed. Again, the overall impression from everyone was good, so that's a 14 out of 14 in terms of overall impression, which was great. And again, 14 out of 14 for people unaware of apps with a similar purpose. Again, really good. Main menu was still rated as mediocre by about half the people. It was 4 out of 7 last time, 3 out of 7 this time. Search results screen tested well again. It was 3 out of 7 great, 4 out of 7 good last time. Now it's 2 and 5. But again, it tested well. And 4 out of the 7 people responded yes, they would use an application like this. Some of the successes, again, it was clear the navigation was easy for users in terms of being able to move back and forward. No problems there. And in fact, after people get their initial impression of the application, the few that do struggle with that big button on the main page, after that, they have no issues navigating through the interface. It's very simple, very straightforward, so it's not surprising. Excuse me. Everyone this time was able to successfully complete all the tasks, which was great. I think reordering the questions may have helped here. I'll talk about that in a little bit. I got positive feedback on the search results screen again. You see some quotes there on the screen from folks. Main menu got more good than mediocre this time, which was a success, though not as highly successful as I would have liked. And I just added another quote there at the end from one of the people who said they were pleasantly surprised the amount of detail for each person. So that was good as well, because that was one of the things that one of the big things I wanted to change from the last iteration of the prototype. Some areas that I know I can still improve based on the survey results from the users. One of the users during the test specifically said, "Oh, I can click the button" when they were on the main menu. Again, it was not totally clear right off the bat. I also thought it was funny that he said click the button rather than press the button. It's obvious how our historical and built-in knowledge of clicking things on a screen still pervades, even though you were tapping the interface. And 2 people called out the search bar as being weird and in a weird spot, so I mentioned those here as well. In fact, 2 users, I don't believe it was the same users. I can't recall right off the top of my head. Still try to use the current zip code rather than just using the button right off the bat. Somebody mentioned that the browser window doesn't look like a browser window. Thank you to that guy. And people are still using the back button before switching to different politicians in the list view, which when you're in the list view, let me show you real quick. Whoops, not the survey. You can just click through like I showed you before. A lot of people were doing something like this, clicking back and then there to get to another person, which I still need to figure out a good way to solve that, just so people aren't wasting clicks. So, some key differences from the last test. Again, like I said, slightly better rating for the main menu. Though with only 7 people in each sample size, there was only 1 point of difference between both of them. So it could just be statistical noise. People may still not like the main menu, to be completely honest with you. People did navigate the main menu quicker than last time, which was great. The aesthetics seemed to help. All 7 people completing the tasks, like I mentioned. I think putting the question about finding out who the interim senator from Massachusetts 4th in the list rather than 2nd helped, because the first 2 questions before that allowed the users to get familiar with the application, and I think that familiarity made it clear to users where they could find that information. So I think I was actually able to influence that result, which scientifically doesn't make sense, but it did show me that once people had a little bit of a better working knowledge of the application, they were able to find some of this more detailed information. And like I mentioned, there were more independents in this survey, and all 3 of the independents said that they wouldn't use the app, which was exactly the conclusion that I would have drawn. Finally, the best quote that I got from the survey results, "That guy with the bow tie is awesome," referring to Senator Mo Cowan there. I agree. Again, no one complained and tried to turn the application vertically, which I guess is good. I didn't make any effort to do a portrait view. I was still surprised that no one tried, but I guess it's not as important as I might have thought. And the A/B testing of the ThereGov versus MyGov that I mentioned on the search bar really didn't yield me much help, to be honest. 3 liked ThereGov better, 2 liked MyGov better, and 2 had no opinion. So again, a virtual tie in terms of what people preferred. Finally, the next steps that we are going to take on the application. The main menu clearly still needs work. I like it. It's definitely better than last time. But the button still needs to pop more, still needs to look more pushable. I still need to push people to the button as their first impression. Maybe a little subtle little pop-out hint that says, "push me," or something. I don't know. Something like that just to make it more clear and obvious. I'm also considering hiding the search bar by default under a very nondescript, clear link that you can press. And then once you press the link, then the search bar appears. I think it might help the aesthetic and make it look a little less cluttered and out of place. I want to get the prototype of the zip code search up and running, or zip code, some kind of zip code search in. Email functionality, I want to get that in as well to actually test how the emails work and pre-populating issue emails for people. And finally, I need to look into and study really hard if there's a way to avoid users hitting that back button when they're trying to navigate between politicians, because frankly, it's just a wasted click, and I feel like I'm providing a bad user experience if people are trying to do that, because they don't have to do that. It's yes, it only wastes 2 or 3 seconds, but that's 2 or 3 seconds that you could be doing something else, frankly. So that was week 3 in a nutshell. I apologize on the length, but there was a lot to cover this week. I will talk to you again for week 4. Bye.